and welcome to today's video. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and today I'm going to be creating a look with the Eldridge palettes. I have the Myth palette and the Sorcery palette, and I will put up swatches. I was definitely very intrigued by the formula. These are on the more expensive side, so they are a bit of an investment, but I was really curious to see what the Velvet formula was like, if it was similar to the Natasha Denona Cream to Powder, and just how the different shimmer formulas feel, because there's definitely quite a few different kind of formulas going on between all the palettes. These are the two that really piqued my interest the most out of all the 5 different palettes that they launched. So let's get right into the looks and I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. I'm gonna go in with this shade right here first, using the Refer 14 brush, and it's gonna go right onto my inner crease. That literally like blended itself out. I didn't even have to do much wiggling of the brush. I mean, look at that. I kind of had a feeling this is how these would be. Obviously, this is just the first shade I'm using, but we shall see. And then I'm going to go into the purple right next to that shade. And it's going to go into the outer half of my crease. Such beautiful tones. I love the depth in here. There's a really deep matte shade, or velvet shade rather. Popping that in there. Taking the Makeup Shack T63 brush and going into this deep shade. I'm gonna pop that onto my lid, creating a halo eye. So first taking it in here, just kind of tapping it on and then slowly blending it up into the crease. And then doing that same thing on the outer corner, just tapping it on, laying it down first, and then blending it out into that purple shade. I actually have a little bit of fallout. I'm going to take some setting powder and just take that over the edges of everything, and then out here, and just blending that out. I'm actually pretty surprised that I got some fallout. Usually with these creamish to powderish shades, you don't really get that much fallout. And then I'm going to take that shade underneath my lower lash line with the same T63 brush, and I'm going to take the purple and just put it on the edge of that. And then I'm going to take the pink shade that I used on the inner corner and pop that underneath the rest of my lower lash line. And then for the inner corner, I'm going to go in with that center sparkly shade. The shade is super, super sheer. It really is just like sparkles. It doesn't really give much of a sheen after. I'm glad I swatched it first, because I feel like if I try to put this on the lid, I would have been kind of like, oh, I wanted a little bit more. And then in the center of my lid, I'm going to go in with the satin shimmer shade, which is this one right here. I'm just going to use my finger. I feel like that's not really giving me much shine. I feel like when I swatched it was a bit shinier. So taking the Refer 02 brush, and I misted it just a little bit with just some water. And yeah, I just feel like it's not very... Oh, there we go. I feel like now that I'm building it up, I'm bringing it out a little bit more. And then I'm going to actually pop that Topper-like shade over it just to see kind of how they layer. But you can see it doesn't really affect it much because it just leaves sparkles behind. Here's the first finished look. Onto the Sorcery palette, I'm going in with the only matte shade in here, and that is this dark green, and I'm just going to do another kind of halo eye, pretty much, and I'm just going to take that right into the crease, onto the outer corner and the inner corner as well. And then I'm going to be using a clean brush to blend it out with nothing on it, just to get a really nice blend that is a little bit lighter. So I cleaned off this brush. It looks like it's a little bit stained, but promise there's nothing on it. And I'm just gonna work it all the way around and just applying a little bit of pressure and just blending it out. And then I'm also going to bring that underneath here and here. Popping on some Fairname Pixie Poxy right in the center. Gonna tap it out. I'm picking up this super sparkly shade. This is just a ColourPop brush. I'm pretty sure it's from a set, so you may not be able to find it. Not 100% sure though, and I'm just gonna put that right in the center, making sure the outer edges of that are not harsh. And then I'm actually gonna take my finger just to really like see like how much I can amp it up. Oh yeah. Oh, this formula right here is so beautiful. And then I'm gonna take the light silver shade, I think. This one in the bottom center. And I just lightly sprayed my brush. Or misted my brush rather again. I don't want to spray because I don't want anyone thinking I'm literally like soaking my brush. I'm just popping that underneath the lower lash line. I don't know why I feel like these look a little bit similar. Maybe it's because of just the placement of them or something. Here's a second finished look. I'm going to talk about the Myth palette first. Upon first impressions, these matte shadows or velvet shadows are just so amazing. They blend so nicely, so easily. You can easily go with a lighter hand and build them up if you wanted to. Very, very reminiscent of the Natasha Denona Cream Tip Powder if you're experienced or you know of that formula. And if you enjoy that formula, I definitely think you would enjoy this formula as well. It is definitely a really great formula, at least in my opinion. I really like it. However, I do have some wear time issues sometimes with those. It really depends on the eyeshadow primer I use. I definitely like to set my eyeshadow before using that formula. However, I have not wear tested these palettes yet, so I can't speak on the longevity of these specific palettes. If you have a lot of indie eyeshadows, you like your sparkle, you like your shine, you like your shift, this is probably not going to be it for you, especially you have only 2 shimmer shades in here, and this one right here is very, very, very satin, which will really depend on your preference. And if you like that kind of formula, it definitely doesn't accentuate any sort of skin texture, which makes it very, very versatile for a lot of people. I had a little bit of a higher expectation for this shadow, just something about it. It's very, very topper-like, very, very sheer. Not my exact cup of tea. I probably wouldn't be using this one all over the lid. Also, I'm not sure if it's translating on camera, but it is hard panning just a little bit for me swatching it and then using it with my fingers. So I would probably avoid touching this one in particular with your fingers if possible. Onto the Sorcery palette. Obviously, I've only used 3 shadows from this palette. I do wish there was maybe one more matte instead of one of the shimmers, specifically this one. Just from swatching this one, it does seem to be a satin shade. It is called a metallic, but I don't really feel like it's that metallic. I did have to layer it on in the swatch to really kind of get it to show up. It was just a little bit sheer, so that one is not my favorite. The other shimmers do seem really nice and opaque. This one is definitely topper-like. This one is the Luminous Duo formula. Love, love, love this one. Would love to have seen this formula in the Myth palette, specifically that kind of topper-like shade. If it was in this formula, I think it would have been absolutely amazing, which the other formula was called Top Coat, and it truly was, I think, a top coat. The only matte in the palette is actually called Seamless Matte, but it does feel and perform just like the Velvet Matte shadows in the Myth palette. It blended effortlessly, as you could see, and you can really, again, go in with a lighter hand or build it up to full opacity that you see in the pan. Overall, I think this is such a cute little 6 pan. I'm excited to try out some of the other metallic shades in this palette. Probably will be doing a reel or something, so stay tuned for that. So these are my first impression thoughts on both of these palettes. I wasn't really drawn too much to any of the other palettes, especially because they are $68 each. They are made in Italy, and they do have nice large size pans, and the pans are removable if you wanted to configure your own palette. So let me know in the comments below what you think of these palettes. If you got any of these, what do you think of the different formulas? I would love to hear your thoughts, and that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.